approximately 5 feet. Variation to reduce the front yard setback for parking from 30 feet to approximately 5. Variation to reduce the front yard setback for a new company sign from 15 feet to approximately 10 feet. Located on Chicago Avenue in Naperville, Lyle Township. It's about a little over an acre, serviced by water and sewer. The matter was published in the Daily Herald on December 21. And I have comments only from DuPage, which essentially says that they need more information from the petitioner. No other substantive comments from any of the departments of the county or municipalities to whom we have circulated the petition. So can I ask all of the petitioner's witnesses that are going to speak at all tonight to stand and be sworn in all at the same time by the court reporter?
Raise your right hands, please. You do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this class and out hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. You can identify yourself when you speak. And then lastly, I'll indicate that I have petitioners exhibits 1 through 8. Aerial photograph in this order: aerial photograph of the property, aerial photograph of petitioner's existing facility. 3 is boundary and topographic study. 4 is site plan. 5 is site development plan. Landscape plan. 6, preliminary geometrics. 7, and standards for conditional use is a narrative statement by the petitioner. Mr. West, you want to take over?
Good evening. My name is Kathleen West of the law firm of Donmuth, Colbine, West, Gensler et al. And our law firm represents Kids World, Inc. Kids World is the contract purchaser of the property located at 25W 380 East Chicago Avenue in Naperville in unincorporated Lyle Township. Kids World proposes to relocate its child daycare facility from its existing location at 2793 Maple Avenue, Lyle, to this location on Chicago Avenue. Its existing facility is located in the Green Trail Shopping Center. Kids World operates as Children's Creative Corner. Children's Creative Corner has been in operation since 1994, and Kids World has been operating the center since 2011. This proposed development requires a conditional use for a child daycare center and 3 variations. With me this evening to help make the presentation and to respond to any questions are Tony and Renato Zocek, the owners, Mr. Lin, the project engineer, Ray Fang, the architect, and Javier Millen, the traffic engineer. The subject property is located on Chicago Avenue, on the north side of Chicago Avenue at Olson Lane. The property consists of 1.17 acres and is zoned R4 single family residential. To the north and east of the property is the Century Hill subdivision, which is also zoned R4. To the west is the Naperville Country Club. On the south side of Chicago Avenue is a shopping center, which is zone B1 in the city of Naperville, and Grace Point Church, again in the city of Naperville, but zoned R1. The subject property is improved with the residential structure. The structure has been used for office, the dental office now for several years. There is a parking area in front of the building and another parking area on the west side of the property for a total of 18 parking spaces. Kids World proposes to utilize this property for a child daycare center. The structure will be The structure will be renovated. A 5,400 square foot addition will be constructed on the east side of the property. 31 parking spaces will be constructed, 20 in the front of the building and 11 along the west property line for employee parking. And pursuant to this, to the zoning ordinance, this facility is required to provide 23 parking spaces, and we're providing 31. The driveway is now located at the west end of the property, but it's getting relocated to the east end of the property, approximately 152 feet to the east. And this was at the direction of the County Department of Transportation. We've had a full discussion with them. And also that will be a full access driveway. 2 playgrounds will be installed. One here and then another one the northeast corner of the building. The existing garage will eventually be converted to a gym. A 6-foot board-on-board fence will be constructed around the north perimeter of the property, and most of the existing vegetation on the site will be maintained. This site requires 3 variations. One, to reduce the west side setback for parking from 20 feet to 5 feet. Second, to reduce the front yard setback for parking from 30 feet to 5 feet. And the last variation is to reduce the front yard setback for the identification sign from 15 feet to 10 feet. I would now ask Mr. Lin to come up and further explain the building improvements and the landscaping.
Good evening. My last name is Lin, L-I-N. I'm with Ridgeline Consultants out of Montgomery, and I'm the project manager on this project. I'd like to briefly talk about engineering elements of the project. First of all, for the existing building, it's currently serviced by the sanitary service and the water service. And when we talk about water service, we believe it's a 6-inch water service that's adequate to support a fire protection sprinkler system. So it's our plan to reuse the existing sanitary and water service for the new development. And secondly, for the site grading has been designed based on totally following DuPage County Stormwater Management Ordinance. And the existing drainage pattern on the property is 100% followed. So wherever, currently it drains to the back, it goes around, there is a ridge line that goes along somewhere within the property. So the existing drainage pattern within the property is honored and it's been maintained. And also because the project create more impervious area than the existing condition. And based on the county code, there will have to be something called PCBMP, post-construction best management practice that will have to be provided. And that's what these 2 dry well was about. These 2 dry wells will be located at the downstream end of the property to collect the surface runoff from its upstream area. So basically, the dry well is a gravel pit. In this case, it's going to be 4 foot deep or 5 foot deep gravel pit. And it's collecting the surface water coming from the upstream area and let the surface water sit in the system and let it percolate slowly into the ground to recharge the groundwater level. And this PCBMP is really for the water quality purpose. So not only it detains the water and slowly dissipates it so that the downstream area doesn't incur more runoff onto their own properties, but also during the water sitting in the system for hours, it kind of let the impurity settling and also filtering out the impurities such as the oil, the metals that comes from the parking lot. That's pretty much that's the idea of the dry well, which is one kind of the PCB. Lastly, quickly on site lighting. The site lighting will definitely be designed in such a way that it's completely following DuPage County's requirement, and that is no increase in the foot candle reading at the property line of ours when the property is adjoining the residential neighbors. So there will be no increase again for the lighting, foot candle lightings. That's all I have for the engineering element. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. West, could I just ask a couple of questions while we're on this subject?
Yes, sir.
Have you been in touch with Stormwater Department preliminarily?
Yes, we have talked briefly about that.
And what is your understanding of the requirements for retention detention? I ask that because I'd like to know whether the dry wells satisfy those requirements according to the Stormwater Department.
Thank you, Chair. So based on DuPage County Stormwater Management Code, when the net new impervious area exceeds 25,000 square feet, detention will have to be provided. The design that you guys are looking at, the net new impervious area is 15,000 square feet. So it's short of the threshold of the requirement of detention basin. However, that's for detention. On the other hand, there is another requirement, which is PCBMP, which the project did exceed the threshold, and therefore we were providing that to satisfy the county's.
And the dry wells satisfy that requirement?
Yes.
What is the condition, to a layman, what's the condition of the property with respect to the stormwater drainage, standing water issues in a heavy rain event?
Again, it's our intention to definitely keep the existing drainage pattern. There will be.
Yeah, but can you cut your grass after it rains, or is the yard soggy?
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to get a layman's view of, is this property subject to flooding or standing water in heavy rain events?
I was not aware of any serious ponding issues with the property. In fact, this property has a very healthy slope from the high point to the low point.
Okay. And you talk about conformance with photometric standards. Your site plan is a little, I'll look at it more carefully later, but are you proposing some pole lighting someplace here?
We are, yes. If you're looking at the site plan, we do propose several pole lightings around the perimeter of the new parking lot. Yes.
And can we have some, have you selected the particular pole light systems yet?
We have not.
Okay. You know the height?
No, but it will be likely
You don't have the
low.
specifics.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. As long as if you don't have the specifics yet, then fine. You'll just have to conform. But one of the things that we'll do if the project goes forward is to see to it that any pole lighting is diffused and deflected toward the interior of the property and all those usual, maybe that's best practices, I don't know, but it seems like it should be. All right, those are the only follow-up questions I have for you, sir. Thank you.
Chair.
I would just like to briefly explain the operations of Children's Creative Corner. Children's Creative Corner is licensed by and is in good standing with the Department of Children and Family Services and the County Health Department. It is licensed for 131 children between the ages of 6 weeks and 12 years old. On any given day, approximately 80 families use this facility for their daycare needs, with an average attendance of 103 students. With moving or relocating its facility, Kids World is not intending to increase enrollment. Children can enroll for 2 to 5 days a week, and the facility operates Monday through Friday from 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Parents drop off and pick up their children at staggered times. In the morning, that's generally between 6:30 and 9:45. And in the afternoon, it is generally from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Based on its records, no more than 25 drop-offs or pickups occur in any 30-minute period, and that only occurs once in the morning and once in the afternoon. The Children's Creative Corner is located just east of the subject property on the same street, and Kids World has operated the facility for 10 years. It has never experienced any operational difficulties in terms of drop-off and pickup. There have not been any waiting or stacking issues. I realize that what we're proposing here is different than their current situation. Their current situation is that they're in a shopping center. But here on this site, we are creating 20 parking spaces in front of the building that will accommodate the drop-off and pickup activity. The center also uses 2 small 14-passenger vans, and they're used for primarily after-school care. On good weather days, students are given time outside for approximately 20 to 30 minutes in the morning, and again, the same amount of time in the afternoon. The outside time is staggered with the different classes, so the outside area would be used probably for about 2 hours in the morning and again 2 hours in the afternoon. There's no meal preparation in the building. All the meals are catered in, and the daycare will have 16 employees. And again, when you look at the site, you can tell that it's a very self-contained unit. And now I would ask Javier Milton to explain the results of his traffic study.
Before, maybe Javier could do this, but you talked about drop-off pickup. I understand the time sequence, but could you show us on the site plan what the configuration there is? 'Cause, you know, that's a big safety issue. So if you could sort of trace it out and show us, sort of run your finger through the way it works on the drop-off and pickup.
Good evening. Can you hear me with the mask?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think so.
My name is Javier Milan.
Wait, Javier, those of you on Zoom, can you hear?
Perfectly.
Great.
My name is Javier Milan. I'm a principal of KOA, and we were retained to conduct the traffic study for the proposed development. I'm going to start by answering your question, Neil, regarding the area for the drop-off and pickup. So it's the parking spaces on between Chicago Avenue and the building. Typical daycare facilities, you have to actually walk in your kid. You cannot just say bye, get in, so you have to get out of the car, walking in, you have to sign, and then get out. So certainly a parent or an adult is going to be with that child when they're getting out of the car going in, and when they're picking up the kid, the same thing. They have to, walk with the parent. So this is the area that is intended for the drop-off and pickup. So it's not like a drop-off zone that you see in school, that it's a line. It's not like that.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll try to be very brief because I know we're trying to accommodate a lot of things. So we conducted traffic counts in the area. We counted from 7 to 9 in the morning, 4 to 6 p.m. Those are the typical peak periods. And certainly due to the ongoing pandemic, we know that those are not, or the counts do not reflect normal typical conditions. So as such, we have to adjust them. And the way that we adjust the counts is we looked at previous data. In this case, DuPage County, the Division of Transportation, they had data from 2017, so we're able to look at that. But 2017 is a few years back, so we need to increase those volumes by a growth factor to reflect 2021 normal conditions. Once we have that, we compare them. On the morning peak hour, our volumes were higher. The afternoon volumes were 30% lower, so we bumped them up by 30% to reflect normal conditions. As you have heard, the site, will have a maximum enrollment of 131 students. Access to the daycare will be provided via one single access drive on Chicago Avenue, east of Olison Drive. The access drive will provide one inbound lane and one outbound lane, with the outbound movements under stop sign control. I really would like to point out that the proposed access will replace that existing access drive on Chicago Avenue that is approximately, I'll show it in here, that is it's about 35 feet offset from Olison, and it's not under signal control. So it's a stop sign or a signalized access drive offset from a signalized intersection. It creates a lot of confusion. So when you have those offset intersections, it becomes problematic. It becomes very confusing. So they're certainly improving an existing condition by closing that access drive and moving it further away from the intersection. Also, as part of the proposed development, and this was done in discussions with DuPage County. So we worked this with DuPage County Division of Transportation. Chicago Avenue will be restriped to provide a 175-foot long two-way left turn lane along the site's frontage. And this two-way left turn lane will be able to serve the proposed daycare facility, the church, I think it's Grace Point Church, as well as the Naperville lift station. Right now, there's no two-way left turn lane. What you basically have is the turn lanes and taper. So if you observe traffic conditions, people tend to make the turn from the taper or from the through lane. So this is improving existing conditions by allowing those left turners to actually move away from the through traffic and make it from a two-way left turn lane. So the traffic volume that will be generated by the proposed development, it was based on two sources. They provided us with data, but as you are aware, normally we use ITE to see what is it going to generate during the peak hours. That's normally what the county relies on, the state of Illinois and other municipalities. We compare them very similar. However, ITE was a little bit higher, so we utilized the higher one, and that's what we applied for the trip generation. It was assigned to the area roadways, and then so we don't analyze in a vacuum. We increased the existing traffic volumes by a growth factor that was provided to us by CMAP, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, to project 2027 conditions. So we're projecting into the future. We then conduct a capacity analysis, and the analysis have shown that all of the intersections will operate at acceptable levels of service. Besides just the typical analysis, we also run simulations and looked at the queues to make sure that they actually can be accommodated by the proposed improvements. So based on the analysis, the eastbound left turn into the daycare will have a queue of one vehicle, which can be accommodated by the proposed two-way left turn lane. Conversely, the westbound left turn lane, or the westbound left turn queue, can be accommodated by what is being proposed for two main reasons. The westbound left turn movement at Chicago Avenue with Olison operates under protected permissive. What do I mean by that? You have the green arrow and you also have the green ball. Second, the majority of the green time is allocated to Chicago Avenue. So, for example, during the weekday evening, which is the heaviest travel period, that westbound left turn receives 20 seconds of protected green arrow and 66 seconds of permissive green. That's about almost 72% of the cycle length. So the majority of the green time, and it's right, it should be like that. Chicago Avenue is the main one. It's been given to Chicago Avenue. For those two reasons, that's why this works, and the queues can be contained within what we're proposing. So in very quick summary, here, the intersection of Olison Drive and Chicago Avenue, they have sufficient capacity to accommodate the future traffic volumes. The proposed access drive can also accommodate the projected volumes. And the proposed closure of the existing access drive and the proposed restriping will be a big improvement over existing conditions And again, those queues can be accommodated by what we're proposing in terms of the striping. And lastly, just like I said, this was done in conjunction with the Division of Transportation. It was something we came up with. They took a look at it, they fine-tuned it, we discussed it, and this is what you have.
Okay, there's no written traffic study?
Yes, there should be one.
Do I have that?
It was in our packets.
Maybe it's in the. It's usually so thick, I'm looking for 80 pages.
It's in the chat box.
Okay, let's see what we have here. All right, well, I'll review it. It's online, okay. So then, do we want to ask for questions for Javier from members of the board now, as long as he's up there? And Mr. Murphy, do you want to ask? Go ahead. I might have to repeat your question if it's short, or pass you the microphone. So what's your question? 131 kids, right, at staggered times.
Most of them are coming from Naperville. How could the cars up at the end of there?
Yeah, so there's no stacking. How do you, that's both a traffic study question and an operational question. So do you understand? The question is, how does this work with 131 kids with stacking, et cetera? Go ahead.
It's that our enrollment is 130, we're licensed for 131 students. However, on any given day, we only have an attendance of 103. And of those 103, we have 80 vehicles. Because people have bring 2 or more children. Some of the students can use our van service. So we don't have 131 students coming to the school every day.
And you say you have like 80 families that during the course of a typical day drop off kids?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Over
still,
3 years.
and some of those are transported by your vans.
And that's included in our counts.
Okay, so let's hear how Javier calculated this
Well,
information into a calculation.
Along those lines too, the other thing to keep in mind is that, as it was alluded to, unlike a school, let's say an elementary school, it has a set time. So when the bell rings and a set time when you get out, and you have that surge, unlike a typical school, this peak period of dropping off the kids occurs over a 3-hour period. So you don't have the typical peak. You have it more, it's still up, but it's more flat rather than peaking. Because of that, and because of what Kathleen mentioned, you have some families that have 2 kids. You don't have all the kids at the same time every single day. You certainly don't have that. Because of that, the volume of traffic that is projected, and like I said, we compare what they provided us and what ITE provides. ITE is slightly higher, so we use ITE instead of going with the lower route, which is what they're experiencing, it can be accommodated. So what you are expecting in an hour, and I think you were concerned about making the left, traveling eastbound and making a left into the site, it's approximately 22 vehicles in an hour. So because of that, it can be accommodated.
So Ms. West testified that 103 kids on average have staggered drop off and pickup from 6:30 till 9, did you say?
To 9:45.
9:45,
Mhm.
and the pickup is 3 to 6?
Correct.
Is that a pretty equal distribution in your experience, or
Yes, in the traffic study.
better use the mic, so.
I believe it's in the traffic study where we showed, we have a chart showing the number of students that are dropped off every 30 minutes within that time period.
Okay,
And it's pretty similar for both morning and afternoon.
okay, great. Does that satisfy you, Mr. Murphy? Anything else?
Not quite.
Okay.
If I'm coming from Naperville, which most of the cars that are coming from,
Mhm.
if put those cars over in that stacking, then make a left turn.
Can you repeat the question, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I didn't actually hear it either, so let's check.
If I'm coming from Naperville, there is no stacking lane to get in there. The stacking lane that's showing there is for a left turn going west.
No. Let me explain this. And this is what the two-way left turn lane is, and this is again in conjunction with Division of Transportation. So the two-way left turn lane, basically it shares the taper. Even though there's an opening in there, vehicles use that 45 feet to actually move into the two-way left turn lane. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so now having said that, and I know you were asking about, is it equal, like in the distribution, so there's a table, and I know you're gonna look at it. So fairly equal, like for example, 6:30, based on their information, existing facility, 8. 7 o'clock, 10, 7:30, 25, 8 o'clock, 15. So you can see how it goes up a little bit and then just goes down again. So it's not everybody at 8 o'clock, it's just right there. So it's more gradual. And again, that opening that you see there serves both. And that's the whole purpose of a two-way left turn lane. That's typically used when you have driveways within close proximity and you cannot provide an exclusive left turn lane for each driveway. You can drive along Chicago Avenue and other places and you can see it. It's just a method and a technique that it's used to actually accommodate that.
Anything else? Okay, Mr. Murphy has no other questions. Mr. Schultz, you had a question?
Mr. Chairman, can I just interject one thing?
Sure.
In talking with the owner, half of the students are from the Lyle area and half of the students come from Naperville.
Okay, so that affects the,
Mhm.
Okay, so one of your variances is you want to move the parking lot 25 feet closer to Chicago Avenue. So I was curious, how far is the parking, the closest point there to Chicago Avenue? And do you consider that safe, given that occasionally or possibly you might have somebody go off-road?
Let me see if I understand this. So you're referring to these spaces, or I just want to make sure that I know what you're.
From the parking lot to the edge of Chicago Avenue. So going from your finger going south, right? Because they're going to move the parking lot, the setback from 30 feet to 5 feet is the proposal. So what I want to know, because I couldn't tell, because my diagrams are all shrunk up and you can't see the thing, but I want to know the distance from the edge of the parking lot to Chicago Avenue.
Okay, I think I follow you. So I'm going to start from here. Edge of Chicago Avenue.
Yes.
A parking stall typically is about 18 feet long.
Right.
Okay, so you have 18 for the stall, and then you have I forgot what the 5 foot. So that's 23 feet right there, and then on top of that, the drive aisle it's 24 feet.
That's not a grossing problem. From Chicago Avenue to the front, to the beginning of the parking lot from Chicago Avenue. So it's 5 feet plus whatever the distance is.
This particular area, the parkway basically, that's 8 feet. And then we've got the 5 foot setback
So that's 13 feet.
from the edge of the pavement.
Then would you consider that? I mean, I realize a lot of people are going to be stopping, but if there's a green light and people are going 40 miles an hour, whatever, and then somebody, God forbid this ever happens, but bumps them and then one of the cars ends up going off-road, would you consider that a safe distance between the front of where the car that's parked in the parking stall is going to only be, 13, 14 feet away from Chicago Avenue?
I see what you're saying now. Ideally, you want more distance. Like I'm looking at this, and you probably would like to see something like that. in this case, it cannot be provided. I mean, I understand why. I don't think it would be a problem. However, and I'm going to offer this, if Division of Transportation would like to include some type of fencing or a bollard or something, that could be done. However, keep in mind, you have a curb. That also, I mean, that helps in controlling the vehicles. And I'm gonna give myself as an example. One time in snow, I lost it. I thought I was gonna jump it. The curb didn't let me jump it. So I basically slid along the curb. So
I would like you to consider this with the Department of Transportation. We live in a world where accidents aren't our only problems, and some sort of barrier, safety barricade, might make some sense. So consider that if you would.
sure.
Now, are there any questions from any of the members present online, on Zoom, on telephone, which we have?
No questions.
I just have one, which we've started to do in the past. This is basically a conditional use request with some variations. And we've changed it from variations to exceptions, so they don't run with the land, they would run with the conditional use. Is that acceptable to this proposal?
I've asked the staff to examine that and confer. Let's see how this proceeds at the recommendation meeting, because I've asked the staff to review that issue.
Thank you.
No other questions from members appearing remotely? Okay, thank you. Javier, I appreciate your interrupting, and Ms. West, I appreciate your interrupting your presentation, but it seemed like a good thing to get some of those issues done.
I would like to, what I was going to do next is review the standards for both conditional uses and variances, but I have marked that as an exhibit and we'll just enter it into the record. So we do that right now.
Yeah.
That's acceptable.
The 7 standards, I think, are very acceptable. Although, if this proceeds with variations, we need to understand the hardship, unique circumstance, or practical difficulty to support the variations. If you're building not a greenfield site, but if you're expanding the property and creating a new system, footprint, et cetera, it's hard to say, I need variations as a matter of legal hardship, unique circumstance, or practical difficulty, because you could just build it differently. But what's your answer to that?
What our practical difficulties are.
Related to the site, not the operation that you propose.
So there are a couple of, oh, I'm sorry.
Mask off, mask on, depending on what's the latest fashion.
Well, in terms of the conditional use, the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance is to allow certain uses as conditional uses, provided that the proposed conditional use is compatible with the permitted uses in the district. In this case, the proposed use will be located in a residentially designed structure. It does not have direct access to the adjacent residential neighborhood. Its vehicular access is to a main roadway, and the property has been used for commercial for many years. I can go through for the 3 variations, what the practical difficulty is for each one.
Yeah, the practical difficulty is what we're.
Okay. So the property does exhibit practical difficulties or particular hardships. In terms of the west side setback variation for parking, the practical difficulty or particular hardship of the property is the location of the existing structure. The location does not allow sufficient area to provide the parking area with the required setback. However, this issue is mitigated by the fact that we're citing the parking area, which is we're using the existing parking area, but we're citing it adjacent to the maintenance building for Naperville Country Club. So it really isn't impacting, but again, our hardship is the existing structure. In terms of the front yard setback for parking along Chicago Avenue. The practical difficulty or particular hardship of the property is actually the orientation angle of Chicago Avenue. The area between Chicago and the existing structure, because of the angle of the street, it's not sufficient to provide parking. However, this reduction in the setback really doesn't impact surrounding uses. Again, the uses on the south side of Chicago Avenue are institutional and commercial in nature, and they're separated by the arterial roadway there. The front yard setback variation for the sign, the practical difficulty of this property is the existing landscaping and trees along Chicago Avenue. The vegetation would impair the visibility of the sign coming down Chicago Avenue, and Kids World wants to maintain the character of the property and would prefer not to remove any of the existing landscaping and trees. So it's the existing conditions of the site.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else, or should we go to questions?
Just a couple of things. We just wanted to, conclude with saying that Children's Creative Corner has been a part of this community for over 26 years. It's family owned and operated. And the reason that the Kids World is looking to relocate to the subject property is to create a better environment for the students, more light in the classrooms, and better outdoor play areas. Mr. Zott, the owner, Tony Zochek, would like to just give a couple of words.
Good evening. My full name is Clinton Zotai. My family owns Children's Creative Corner. And I just want to say that the main people that will benefit this transaction is the children that we serve for. We've been serving the community for 10 years. And, they will, let me just show real quick. This is our current. This is our current facility, and we're doing our best in a strip mall. We're doing our best to take care of our family and children as best as we can. This is our playground right now, and this is the parking area. These 2 spots are assigned to us, and these other 2 spots are assigned to us as well. And even with those 4 assigned spots to us, we're making it work fine, and we haven't had any complaints from our families and the parents. But the most important part, you can see the difference: green, beautiful space, and parking lot. And the children will get the benefit of more natural light, more playing outdoors under the tree shade, and also we can introduce a lot more nature activities which will be very beneficial to them. Like they're going to have a flower garden, they're going to plant themselves, they're going to raise the flowers and clean the weeds and do that themselves. At full time, they can get to clean the leaves of their area, play area, and get a better understanding on, the fall and the seasons and see the leaf colors change and all that. And, at that age, you'll be surprised what difference that makes for them. And we're very excited to have this opportunity for the families. We've had few families from the subdivision that, even though we haven't told our families about this opportunity, obviously we're too early in the stage, but some of the families, they received the notice and they came to us. They were very excited. They were very excited about the opportunity that the children might go to a better facility with more natural light and more, they could get to run on the grass and they get to play outdoor and then compared to rubber molds or something that we have to put right now. So I just want to say that we've had very good words from all the parents that have heard about it. They're very excited, and we're very excited as well to do a better environment for the families that we serve for.
Okay, thank you. Ms. West, you indicated that there are no meals prepared on site. Are there full meals served by caterers?
Yes.
And if so, how many each day?
I will have to ask.
Just give me a number. I don't want a menu, I just want a number.
Right, we serve from Organic Life, and they do serve the hot lunches, and
What's
we do
the number?
serve this next. The number is based on the number of children. So the babies, the infants will not get a catered lunch because they have, different meals. But I would say around 60, between 50 and 60.
All right, what about garbage disposal?
We have garbage disposal and we will have the company to come and pick it up. And
Is it
will be-
resident, are you relying on the residential garbage system of the community, or do you have dumpsters and private pickup?
We have our private pickup on the dumpster behind the facility right now.
Are the dumpsters shown on the site plan?
It's shown right here.
Is it screened? Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yes, sir.
Trash. Okay. And are you required to regulate sharps? Like if a kid cuts himself or something, do you have any, do you give injections or anything like that, or provide any medical treatment that requires the disposal of what's euphemistically known as sharps?
No, we do not. And we do have a nurse that visits our facility every month, a nurse practitioner from the DuPage County Health Department.
Okay.
And we only administer any kind of medication with the parents.
The fire department has so far given us no comment. It's an issue. I don't see any particular issues, but could you please try to get a sign off from the governing fire district?
And this is included in our standards. We did meet with the Naperville Fire Department, who has jurisdiction over this property. They checked our water supply. They said just to come and apply for the permit. They're happy because we will both have a monitored fire alarm system and a sprinkler system.
If it's possible, it would be a benefit to have a no concerns letter from them.
Sure, we can answer that.
Now, the only other item that I have before I go back to the board, there are at least one item that is not included in exhibits 1 through 8. So the traffic study has to be made, exhibit 9. Are there any other items that have been presented in the online package that have not been introduced as hearing exhibits? There's a difference between what was sent to us and what's introduced in a hearing.
I can work with Jessica and see what's
You remember
online,
Jessica?
and then we can.
Everything online has been introduced.
Everything online has been introduced. Okay, great. Thank you. So then, Mr. Murphy, do you have any follow-up questions?
No.
Mr. Schultz?
Real quick, our paperwork shows there's a road easement, and I'm assuming that the road easement has been resolved.
It's a question about
On
Rosie.
the west side of the property, there's a road easement.
There is a question as to whether Lyle Township has a right-of-way there. The owner of the property has used the entire property for years. We have asked Lyle Township for information regarding that, and that's really more of a seller's issue. I'm not doing the real estate part of this. But Lyle Township has indicated to us that if in fact there is a road right of way, they will vacate it to us. So regardless, that property will, if it isn't already, will become part of this property.
Okay, thank you. And then real quickly, our paperwork says Naperville Township. Did we in fact send information to Lyle Township for their comments?
The question is the governing township and which township is commented.
This property is in the city of, has a Naperville mailing address, but it's in Lyle Township.
I understand that, but I just wanted to confirm that we did our due diligence and notified Lyle Township. Okay, but it's different on our paperwork.
Oh, it's a good one.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it says Naperville Township, no comment. But it's Village of Lyle.
It's
Interesting.
just a scrivener's error. Right.
Yeah, okay,
Thank you.
great, thanks. All right, any of the members online with questions?
I have one.
No
and
questions.
while the traffic experts there, the issue of the signage came up. There was no other additional request, so I'm assuming it'll be built pursuant to the zoning code. But I'd like him to weigh on that where it's being put and with the setback issue, that it does not pose any type of safety issue.
Based on a quick review of the site plan, the sign will be approximately 10 feet north or away from the property line. And you still have another, I'm going to guess like another 8 or 10 feet to the edge of pavement. So it appears just, again, the sign will not have a problem, create a problem with the sidelines, you know, for a vehicle that is exiting. Certainly that can be, we can work with that with the Division of Transportation.
Can you show us the location of the sign on the
Yes.
site plan?
Let me, I'm sorry. So, let me see if I can. So this is the sign in question. This line right over here is the property line. And then this is the edge of pavement right over here. So the sign is about 10 feet north of the property line. And then there's still another, I'm trying to see, probably 6 feet or 8 feet before you get to the edge of pavement. So if you take the 8 and the 10, that's 18 feet away from the edge of pavement. Can you see that on the, or you want me to bring the book, you can take it, you can look at it.
Do you have the site plan? Mr. Cutter?
Yes. But you know, the ours are very small when they get sent via email.
That's why I said if you want to, you can take this one and make it easier.
I'm just asking if he has an expert opinion, if it will pose a safety issue.
Yes, my expert opinion from looking at this, preliminarily speaking, no, because of the separation or how far back it is. However, I put the caveat that ideally I would like to take into consideration the comments from Division of Transportation that they might have on this. But it appears that no, it's not going to be a problem because it's set back.
And then all I'd ask for is that we get a copy of what you get back from the Transportation Department regarding your inquiries.
Certainly.
But if it were set back 5 more feet to conform to the ordinance and eliminate the requirement for the request, is it ineffective? Can't you see it if you put it 15 feet back? You don't know.
I'll leave it up to them.
Okay.
But normally that's the concern that business owners have. It's too far back, it loses its effectiveness. But by the same token, I have to make sure that the sidelines are there. So I understand what you're saying, but I'm going to leave it up to them.
The problem that we were experiencing is, is that there's a lot of vegetation out there, trees, shrubs, and we didn't want to,
Into the microphone, please.
so with all the vegetation, it would be difficult to place the sign without having to remove some of that. And that's what we were trying to avoid.
I'm looking at the aerial. I don't know. I can't, I'm not sure if I understand it. What?
You know, the problem, looking at that particular.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
The site plan is superimposed over the aerial, so you can't really see. If you look at this aerial photograph, here, and so you can see all of the trees and shrubs that are in this area. So we would like to move it further south so we can maintain the vegetation.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Nothing else from any member?
I just wanted to add one more thing that was mentioned by the engineer, but Javier earlier.
I got to get to, unless this is critically important, I want to get to questions.
Just want to add that you don't want to be in the position when they pass and they miss the sign and then they have to back or.
Yeah,
turn,
no
you know, how to make a
business wants
U-turn.
people to pass their driveway. I get
And-
that part.
And have to cause a danger.
All right, how many people in the audience want to make a statement? All right, I'll take you first, sir. When you make your statement, I forgot if all you folks were sworn in. I don't think you were. So anybody that wants to make a statement, please raise their hand and be sworn in.
Raise your right hands, please. You do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give at this cause and hour hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
All right, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 people that want to make a statement. I'm going to limit it to a couple minutes each. So would you go first? State your name, spell your name for the court reporter. Yeah, you can go up to the microphone if you would. And tell us where you live in relation to this property, because if this is of some academic interest to you and you live in Wisconsin, I need to know that.
My name is Al Brunsting. I live in Century Hill, adjacent to the property. Century Hill has 300 homes. There are 2 accesses from the subdivision to the outside world. One of them, which has not been discussed tonight, is Concord Avenue, or Concord Road, right here. Concord Road comes out onto Chicago. The other access point is not relevant to this discussion here. What we're concerned about is in Century Hill is that during the drop off and pickup of the children, and this sounds like a really good daycare center here, is that there would be cars on Chicago that would back up trying to get into the daycare parking area here. There'd be a backup here during the busy time, and that's just the time when we have maximum traffic on Chicago Avenue. Chicago Avenue is 40 miles per hour speed limit. And that's my.
Thank you, sir. I didn't finish. You started just a second before I finished. Do you technically oppose, support, or just want to make that comment? And your name, spell your last name?
B-R-U-N-S-T.
Thank you very much. Next speaker. Who'd like to be next? Go right ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is Bill Palm, P-A-L-M, and I'm actually a resident of Century Hill neighborhood as well, 25W211 Mayflower, but I also represent the Homeowners Association for Century Hill. I've been in conjunction with many residents, probably 30% that have shown opposition to these variances. Again, nothing against the daycare center as well. I have friends that have gone there. And it's not so much space, it's more the design layout. Because what we talked about today, about the traffic coming in and out, there will be issues coming in and out. And what happens when there are issues, they're going to be parking in our neighborhood, back in front of our neighbors who are here in front of the house, along here. And there are going to be issues going in and out, whether they're parking in our neighborhood or parking across the into the church. There are also other instances where they host open houses or graduations where you need full parking for the 30 to 40 per class. You need to have a spot for them as well. My other concern is, again, it goes back to the parking in and out of the neighborhood. We brought this up many times. Apologize for repeating. Is that if it does go to full tuition, 131, you will need additional staff. So you need additional staff parking. Again, the 31 spots will not be able to take up the 17, 20 staff members, as well as to get in and out of the other residents or the.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yep.
You said we have a request for conditional use and 3 variations. You said you oppose the variations. Do you mean you? So I want to be precise about this.
Sure.
Are you only objecting to the variations? Or are you suggesting sort of generically, this is a variation to what's going on?
The current design, so based on the variations, so
Okay,
the
that's the
setbacks.
variations.
Right.
But you don't object to the use of this property as a daycare center? for
If we can
kids?
put a design that works, then.
Okay. Now, also, I'm unclear about whether your homeowners association has taken a formal, is making a formal objection in opposition. If that is the case, we need to get a letterhead statement. You know, we got a resolution and we resolve to oppose these. If you're giving us sort of your general information of general understandings and discussions with members, that's a different story.
Sure. I can pull some information together and send it through. We did take an online survey with the residents to.
All you have to do is give me a letterhead from the association stating your position.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next speaker. Anybody want to be next? What, could you guys kind of queue up? Because we're, I'm going to extend this beyond the limit, and I want to leave time for a closing statement from the petitioner. So,
Very good. Lou Wilson, the BYLSON, also a neighbor and a resident of Century Hill. Again, just a restatement of the concern that on the westbound traffic lanes, there are no parking lanes here. So stacking, if and when it occurs, goes directly into a very busy street, which is already difficult to exit once you're on Concord. It sets up a situation that I think is going to be very difficult to control. And certainly once it's been passed and or allowed, it's not like we can take it back. The other thing is, because this is residential in nature behind, I would like to make sure that I know that they want parking lighting for safety of staff and so forth, but I'd like to see it turned off at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, such that even with cutoff, you know you're going to get plenty of spillover. So thank you.
thank you. Jessica, could you include time limits on the outdoor lighting? All right, next.
Thank you. My name's Eric Dresbach, Dresbach, and I happen to live in that house. So my concern is the traffic flow.
What do you mean you happen to live there?
I just happen to live.
Show up one day or what?
25 West 344. I'm literally your neighbor. Okay, first of all, good luck, guys. But you haven't come over to see me either, so that's an issue with me. Good neighbor. The traffic concern I have is coming from going westbound on Chicago. They will block Concord, I guarantee it. Having a kid in daycare a while ago, knowing how much traffic goes in and out of those parking spots, they're dreaming if they're going to get people in and out of that fast. There will be dangerous stack-ups on a 40-mile-an-hour road right in front of my house. So I'm opposed to it. I'm opposed to having a daycare there. I like the dentist office. I would like to keep it this way. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. And then the last speaker. Oh, did I miscount? Were you sworn in?
Well, I live in that same house.
You just happen to live there like him?
I happen to live there too.
All right, well, you gotta, if you want to speak, I'm gonna give you an extra couple of minutes. I'm not gonna go to another hearing for one.
She lives closer, you should let her speak. I'm
You're
Charlie
on.
Serrata. My last name is Souhrada. I live in Century Hill, also in the general vicinity of the daycare. And I'd like to point out that Concord Road is one of two access egress points that we've got out of our subdivision. Concord is a busy street, and if you move further east, about a third of a mile, something to that effect, Cornwall is the next option. Cornwall also is an unsafe intersection. It's very close to Napier Boulevard, and it causes me concern that we're forcing a lot of vehicles that would typically go through Concord down to Cornwall, which I maintain is an unsafe entity. That's all I wish to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I happen to live in that house too. And my concern, very honestly, is the fact that they're moving the driveways right here. The other thing is that they're moving the playground right up against my fence. And as much as I love children and have some of our own, I'm really concerned about hearing that 4 hours out of the day, we're going to have recess out there. And the reason I do is I have 4 dogs that are going to be barking at your children. So it's going to be chaos all afternoon and in the morning. And as much as I understand and I really, really empathize with the daycare, and I think that's a beautiful spot for it, I'm just very concerned that all of a sudden I feel that this is encompassing my home. And my backyard is not going to be mine anymore. My street is going to be, compromised with all of the traffic. And I feel that I'm kind of being encroached upon. So this is my concern. And I am worried about the traffic. I'm also extremely worried about the fact that this is 40 miles an hour, which, believe me, living there, it's not. It's 50 miles an hour all the time. So if you are going to have children there, we need to worry about that first before we do anything. Thank you.
Can you state your name, please?
I'm sorry. My name is Jane Dresbach, Dresbach. Thanks.
Thank you. Mrs. West, do you have any concluding remarks?
Excuse me, and for my neighbors, please let us out of our driveway. I can't tell you how many times we sit there just trying to back up.
All I would ask is, I think we have proven through our testimony and our standards that we've met the criteria for the granting of the conditional use and the variations. I think our traffic report answers the questions that have been raised by both the commissioners and our neighbors. And I would be happy to answer any questions, prepare any additional information that you may need. Thank you.
All right. What's your timing for your contract purchase? Let me start with this. If we hear this at our February recommendation meeting, the matter should be concluded through the various stages of the county process by the end of February. Is that sufficient for you?
Yes.
All right. What's the February hearing date?
Thursday, February 3rd at 5:30.
All right, we'll close the hearing for
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
In the screen, it looks like John has his hand up. I don't know if that's to ask a question.
John doesn't have his hand up.
There's a little yellow hand in the corner.
Well, that's all right, Barry. I pretty much agreed with you, and I had only one question, which doesn't really matter now, since everything has been said. And that was circulation of emergency vehicles. So we can kind of consider those as largely addressed.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll close the hearing this evening. I've asked for a couple of follow-up items, so I'm not going to close the record on this case. Additional information could be submitted by petitioner or whoever until, let's say, January 30th. No, January 30th, I think, is a Sunday. January 28th. At which time the written record in this case will be closed. We'll then hear this matter at our regular monthly recommendation session on February 3rd. That meeting occurs in this room at 5:30 on that evening. So we'll go through a deliberation about this case, any others that happen to be before us, and make our recommendation. That recommendation is essentially sort of the first step of a three-step process. The next phase is the case. The full record of the case goes to the County Development Committee. They meet in open session to discuss the case and make their decision. and refer it then finally to the full county board. I don't know those dates, but typically they occur later in the month that we initially hear the case. So that's our follow-up schedule. There's a couple of items that you can work with the staff about to supplement the record if you would, and we'll close for this evening. Thank you very much. I went a little bit, I have this target because I want to expedite these things as best I can, but I'm happy that we got everybody's information in this evening. And I hope, as to the petitioner, I hope that you didn't feel that you were rushed or whatever. If so, submit whatever you have in writing. Great, thanks. We're closed for this evening.